Ladies and gentlemen, please settle down.
Well, good afternoon again, and after that brilliant session with Mr. Narayan Murthy, we have another wonderful session with two individuals who have really done an outstanding job to make India a better place to live. I would like to welcome Mr. Bankar Roy, Indian social activist and educator, founder of the Barefoot College, and Mr. Dilip Asbe, Managing Director and CEO, National Payments Corporation of India. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to welcome you both to this session. I must congratulate you on the Public Service Excellence Award. Both of you very well deserved it for the wonderful work that you're doing. On behalf of all of you, I congratulate both of them for the award this morning. All of us know, ladies and gentlemen, that inclusion is an urgent imperative for India, and it aims to expand its economy and also consolidate its society. There's no expansion without inclusion, as Mr. Narayan Murthy said earlier, and there is no solidarity without economic and social mobility. History shows us all the way that all successful societies and empires have thrived when they allowed others to join and prosper, and they fell away once they restored to practicing purity and parochialism. A concentration of physical, intellectual, technological, and financial capacities among a few, howsoever competent and compassionate, is not a favorable condition for economic and social growth. There is a greater potential, and power and more quality comes from quantity, and innovation comes from competition. Also, the flatter the society, the greater the solidarity, and the more inclusive a society and economy, the more resilient it is internally and externally. India has become much more inclusive, as we have all witnessed since independence, but it still has a long way to go, which we'll hear from both Bankar and Dilip. Resources and excellence are still patchy. While India is minting new millionaires all the time that we hear about, it's still a long way from becoming a true middle-income economy. There are large parts of population that are on the periphery of the fast-growing but small core, and within the rising circle, there are disparities of opportunities and possibilities. At one level, I think India needs a lot of work in areas of providing essential infrastructure and services to millions of people that reside here. At another level, India needs fairness and equality in the treatment of its various social constituents, especially women. It's because of the inadequacies in some areas and discrimination in others that India is not firing on all cylinders. Inclusion is one of the most urgent issues facing India's policymakers, business leaders, social entrepreneurs, technology innovators, and the ordinary people themselves. We are privileged to have two outstanding innovators and leaders with us in this session, and we would like to we'd like them to tell us how India can drive inclusion faster and make it a much fairer country to live. Before I actually start posing questions both to Mr. Asbe and Mr. Roy, I would request them with a brief opening comments to share their thoughts on how India could draw on the power of more. I would request Mr. Asbe to start with his brief opening comments and then request Mr. Bankar Roy to do the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Srinivas. And let me acknowledge one fact that, we at NPCI happen to get a lot of credit for a lot of hard work which is done by the ecosystem, which is banks, fintechs, RBI, the government being at the center. But I think the whole growth in the digital payments and the democratization actually belongs to them. When we started looking at the digital payment journey, 13-14 years in NPCI now, the whole objective has been how we create the payment systems which are for India. Obviously, there was an option to adopt what the West uses, but I think there was a greater emphasis because when the NPCI started, the same time the Aadhaar also started, and I think we were very clear that how do we create the payment system for Indians? right? Which is very different. Our needs are different. We are a very different country. And I think a lot of things came together at the same time. Aadhaar started. The Prime Minister's vision of JAM Trinity, Jan Dhan accounts, the banks put in a lot of efforts and opened about 300 to 400 million bank accounts. So every family has an account now. The smartphone penetration and the Aadhaar to 1.4 billion population. I think this JAN Trinity kind of created the base which was needed for a payment system like UPI to grow. Obviously, as I said before, this is just a start. And I think when we speak about the inclusion, I think there are a lot many things NPCI and the ecosystem has to do. We have to provide, we have to go to the grassroots. While QR code has been helpful, the smartphone penetration has been helpful. We have to create many more solutions which are required for India. For example, conversational payments, the payments available in local language to the grassroots levels, at least in 13 to 15 local languages. The second is a robust awareness and understanding of the payment system and the digital money. I think there is a lot of work to be done on that part. And also create some innovation-led solutions such as offline payments and those kind of things which can be done even when the internet or the data connections are not available back to the users. So if I have to summarize, I think the lot has been done, but I believe that 10x growth is possible, and I think when we grow 10x from here, then only we can stand up and say we have done the inclusion in real way. Thank you.
Could I request Mr. Bankar Roy to give his opening comments?
Hello? I'm on? I like the way Mr. Narayan Murthy started with stories, and I'll start with a story of mine. 1965, I was in St. Stephen's College, national squash champion, looking for jobs everywhere. And all of a sudden, there was the famine in Bihar, where Jai Prakash Narayan invited the youth to come to the famine and help out. There, I saw starvation, death, and hunger for the first time, and it changed my life. So when I came back home, I told my mother, I'd like to live and work in a village. Mother went into a coma because she couldn't understand why in 12 days I was going to throw my life away. I said, no, I'd like to see what a village is like, what I can do in a village, and I'd like to help in our own way. So when I went to this village called Thilonia, which is now 50 years ago, the elders came to me and said, are you running from the police? I said, no. You failed in your exam? I said, no. You didn't get a government job? I said, no. Why are you here? What's wrong with you? There's something wrong you're not telling us. I said, look, for the last 5 years, I've been an unskilled laborer digging wells in Rajasthan, and I've been exposed to the most extraordinary knowledge, skills, and wisdom that very poor people have, which has not been identified, recognized, or applied on a large scale. So I would like to start a college only for the poor, where the poor's technology, where the poor's traditional knowledge, where the poor's practical skills, where the poor's village wisdom is reflected in the college and brought into mainstream thinking. So today, we have a college which is 50 years old, which is only giving importance to people who have more education than literacy. There is a difference between literacy and education, gentlemen. Literacy is learning how to read and write. Education, what you get from your family, from your environment, from your community. You know, Mark Twain said, never let school interfere with your education. School is what you learn from it. Today, I think we have to set an example at the village level if you want to make a difference. And that is how I think we're going to make a difference as far as reducing economic levels are concerned, reducing the problems of the caste system are concerned, reducing the level of economic disparities are concerned, and giving people jobs. What Narayan Murthy said was great. Give people jobs, and now we are not giving enough people jobs here. I think that is where there's going to be tension in the future, because I think there's going to be a problem with people not getting enough work. So, time being.
Thank you, both Mr. Bankar Roy and Dilip Asbe. I would like to start with you, Mr. Roy. You just said that your organization completed 50 eventful years. And you've achieved so much. I mean, we've read about it, we've heard about it. Which of these achievements, according to you, has given you the greatest satisfaction? And also, a follow-up is, if you reflect back on the past 5 decades, what is it that you think could have been done better?
When you go to a village in India or abroad, what you find are very old people and very young people. The middle youth have left the village looking for jobs in cities. So the Barefoot College came up with a very simple solution. Why don't we train old women, grandmothers? So what did we do? We went to a village where there was no electricity. We chose the grandmother who is illiterate, who's never been outside a village in her life, and we brought them to Tilonia for 6 months. Through sign language, not the written or spoken word, this grandmother becomes a solar engineer, and she goes back and solar electrifies her own village. Today, there are about 1,700 grandmothers from 96 countries who have gone back and solar electrified their village. The amount, if you total them up, it's actually, they're generating about 1.4 gigawatts, which is the equivalent of a nuclear plant. Women are going to be the future of this country. I have come to the conclusion that men are untrainable. Men are religious, men are ambitious, men are compulsively mobile, and they all want a certificate. And the moment you give them a certificate, what they do is go to the nearest city looking for a job. So now, these grandmothers are they come as grandmothers and go back like tigers. We have, with the Ministry of External Affairs, managed to get 40 grandmothers every 6 months into Tilonia, all together in one table, all speaking to each other, not understanding a word because they're all speaking French or Spanish or Jola or Swahili. But at the end of the day, they are solar electrifying their own village. Total awe. The husbands usually were saying, okay, if you're going off for 6 months, I will get myself another wife. You go off if you want to go off. They go off. In spite of all these threats, they come back. They solar electrify the whole village in front of the man, and the man is in total awe. He can't understand how this grandmother could become a solar engineer and solar electrify a whole village. And then he says, come back. And then she said, no, I'm quite all right, thank you. I don't want you anymore. I think this is the change in our times. How do we mobilize women? How do we get them to start being change agents and role models? This is a success story for us. The Prime Minister of India met them and called them solar mamas. So now the solar mama is stuck. Now that's become a global brand for us. So solar mama.
Thank you for that response. Also, another question which strikes me is, I was talking to you in the morning, and also I've read that you strongly believe that, urban solutions cannot be applied to rural problems because they are very specific. At the same time, for example, Dilip's organization is trying to integrate the entire India into providing access to the rural population into whatever facilities that we get in the urban. How do you, and I know that you are helping them, as you rightly said, generation of jobs, creation of economic opportunities, while you help themselves. How do you ensure that they will integrate into the mainstream? Are you trying to inculcate things like digital payment system to the people that you work with. If you could give us a little bit of flavor on that.
I think there is no urban solution to a rural problem. This is what I've learned over 50 years. When you ask an engineer about drinking water, the first thing he suggests is a hand pump, deep bore wells, go into the ground, 300 feet, take water out, and then feed the nearby cities. Ask the old man in the village, what would you do? He'd say, rainwater harvesting. Why aren't we doing rainwater harvesting on a large scale? What is preventing us from doing rainwater harvesting today? I went to Sikkim, and in Sikkim they had a World Bank project where they were taking the water from the river up to the mountains and then through gravity flow, putting the water into the villages. So at that time the Chief Minister was Mr. Chamling. I told Mr. Chamling, can I do some rainwater harvesting? He said, you must be a Bengali. I said, yes, I'm a Bengali. All mad chaps, all the coming out with strange ideas. No chance. I can't. Don't ask me for money. I said, okay, I won't ask you for money. But can I try? He said, yeah, try. Try. So with Sikkim youth, Sikkim materials, Sikkim raw materials, we built a 160,000 liter rainwater harvesting tank right on top of the mountain. And I went to Shamling and said, would you like to come and open it? He said, aapne kar liya. I said, haan, kar diya, sir. Can I bring my chief engineer along? I said, yes. So he asked the chief engineer, you told me this was not possible. And here is 160,000 liters of water right in front of you. What is your answer? Do you know what he said? He said, sir, it was not in my curriculum. I think the answer is to demystify technology and decentralize right down to the people at the bottom, at the lowest level. That is the answer today. Mahatma Gandhi said the world has enough for every man's need, but not for one man's greed. That is what he said. And I think this is very important today.
Dilip, moving on to you. You are heading an organization that has really transformed both money transfer and payment system in the country. How do you see this impacting efficiency in public services in the future?
I think in a great way, because and today and when we look at any of the services which are offered to the citizens, and it could actually change the way the citizen is able to pay back for using those services. And I think the digital payments, it's free to everybody. It's a truly democratization of the payment facility, which is available to everybody, irrespective of his or her status. Right? I think this is a great thing from an NPCI and the ecosystem and the country standpoint, because today, whether it's a rich man, whether it's a poor man, everybody can actually use the mobile phone to make payments digitally, right? We are all equal as far as digital payment is concerned. And I think this has been our mission. Obviously, a lot more has to be done, but I think the democratization gives a great empowerment to our citizens. The second thing is the digitization of the economy gives inherent benefits to the economy as well. Such as the speed of money. The speed of money kind of, there is a limitation to which the cash can change hands in a day. But digital money exchange has no limits. It's real time, instant, 5 seconds, money can be paid, and the same money can be now further used. So velocity of money helps economy. Obviously, it goes without saying that the transparency also brings in great benefit to the economy. The tax payments, and you would have seen the effects of that in the taxes collections for last few years. So I think it's a great story for us to take it forward.
When I met you in the morning, and when I said that you've done so much, in a very humble way, you said this is just the beginning, and you've done very little. And then you substantiated it in your opening comments when you said that, the potential really is 10x. And when you say you've achieved 10x, that's something that you will be satisfied or, convinced that this has really reached the grassroots. Where do you think the impediments and challenges are? And what, if you could give us a flavor of what is the next work that is happening in your...
Yes. So today we have about 300 million citizens which have been using UPI and about 50 million merchants. As we speak, we have about another 250 to 300 million people who has the smartphone and who has the data connection and who has the bank account and Aadhaar. So I believe that the efforts are required by the ecosystem on two things. One is to create awareness, and second is put in efforts to onboard them from a physical system to a digital system. So the app providers, the banks, the fintechs will have to invest into this market the way the first 300 million was covered up. The next 300 million has to be covered up. The remaining 400 million are the feature phones. And again, as I spoke about the conversational payments, because these are the people would be able to use voice if it is made as simple as scanning the QR code for them to make a payment to somebody. So I believe that, if we look at today, we do about 280 million transactions, financial transactions on a daily basis. And I think that the 10x growth would mean about 3 billion transactions a day. And for any country that of the size of India, the digital payment volume should actually reflect our, the size of the populations. That's what we believe at NPCI. And I don't think 3 billion is an unachievable number in the next 5 to 10 years time in our assessment. And I think once we do that, we could have actually made a huge impact on the economy, the lives, and again the gains because of the speed of money which will come back to citizens. And again, at the lowest possible cost. I think that we should not forget, because I think the cost is the biggest impediment to the citizens to use the digital financial services. And second is again the education and awareness. I think lot of efforts are required, because the next 300 million or next 600 million people are going to be more vulnerable in terms of literacy, in terms of education levels. So I think lot of efforts and a tough road ahead.
My last question to you.
Yes.
We've been reading a lot, and wherever the Honorable Prime Minister goes, whenever he travels abroad, whenever he meets with top leaders from all over the world, one of the things that is always talked about is the UPI system. And at least we read that a lot of countries have expressed an interest in trying to basically imbibe technology or, imitate it in their own sense for their citizens. Do you think, can this be easily applied to other countries, or, how is it that the Indian government is thinking on this? Do you want to globalize this concept?
So there are three ways we are thinking about it, Srinivas. First is, the countries which would like to use in Prime Minister's own words, India's public good can be public good of the world, right? So we are in dialogue with some of the countries. Obviously, it's not an easy road because they will have to adopt it. I think the question is whether they can adopt it easily. The answer is yes. Whether they would like to adopt it or not, I think it's their choice. What is in it for us? Obviously, we get the brand India world over. And also, as we move our journey from developing to the developed nation, the way we are self-sufficient on the domestic payments, India would like to be self-sufficient on cross-border payments as well, right? So when our citizens traveling abroad, they should be able to pay using UPI, RuPay cards, our own payment methods, indigenous payment methods. And also, our diaspora living abroad should be able to send money real time. Today, Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Lee announced Singapore to India, Singapore between the bank account to bank account movement between Singapore and India. And actually that gives us a very strategic advantage. If we are able to control the remittances and trades between the top 30 the partners of India, where the diaspora and the trade is very high. So I think the objective is now that domestically we are fairly good position, lot more has to be done, but now the journey of being self-sufficient on the cross-border pipes is started.
Thank you so much for those responses. Mr. Roy, I'm very curious to know, how did you get the nickname Bunker? And why did you choose to use it in your work life?
Rhymes with my elder brother's name, Shankar.
And why did you choose it in your workplace?
Easier.
Any thought behind it?
No, nothing sinister, no.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you, and this would be my last question to you, is, you built such a great organization. And it's really, when you told your story, I was equally appalled like your mother as to why did you choose this line when you were a St. Stephen's graduate, living in Delhi, had so many opportunities. Have you given a thought as to how would you like to run this organization in the future? Any plans for succession planning? Who's going to own this? Own in the sense, who's going to carry on the responsibility and the execution of such a challenging task?
The process has already started. There is a network of people who grew up with me when we started the Barefoot College 50 years ago. There is a second line and a third line that is being developed so far. So the management side is being very carefully looked after and nurtured. I think the decentralization process has begun. And I think I'm very hopeful that the Barefoot College will now be in a good shape. The idea is also that we attract young boys and girls from other parts of India to come to the college, just to get exposure, just to get some experience, just to get some confidence. Lots of people, lots of youth today don't know what their whole country is like, never been to a village. So I think this exposure is very important. So I appeal to all of you that in case you want to send anyone to the Barefoot College just for exposure for 2 weeks, it'll be a very good experience for them, as well as they'll get some sort of perspective on what India and Bharat is like. Today, they are now in a position to be able to, boys and girls who've come to the Barefoot College are now gone back to their states. So there are now 20 Barefoot colleges in 13 states of India, all started because of Zilonia. So now I think it is important today, and my appeal to all of you is that let's try and see whether we can get young people to come and live, or at least experience village life. Very few, I've seen very few people who are actually interested in that. And I wonder why. Is there something wrong with our educational system? Is there something wrong with our parents? Is there something wrong with their courage? What is missing here? I don't know.
Thank you. Thanks. We've already run well over time, but we probably could take about 2 to 3 questions. I would like, if the mics can go around, and whoever asks, just to briefly introduce themselves and say who would you like, since we have 2 speakers on the days, who would you like to the question to be answered by?
Hi, good morning. I have a question. Okay, first of all, I'll introduce myself. I'm Shruti. I'm a PhD scholar from Jamia Millia. I have a question for Dilip sir. Do you feel we can iron out some challenges faced by the UPI or digital payments system by holding seminars or interactive workshops in schools or educational institutions? As I have seen that even with my family, when my father is facing some issues with, say, Paytm, he asks me, "Beta, isko kaise karna hai?" So there is a reverse learning that I have seen that is happening, that the older generation is looking towards the younger ones to educate them or to get them aware about different, payment options and the challenges that they're facing about. I mean, I'm talking about the awareness aspect of the digital payment facade in India. Also, sir, do you think we can host a mandatory short training on Paytm, for instance, that if you need to use this service, you need to complete this training? I mean, because Indians thrive under fear. We don't thrive for opportunities. We do something because we have the fear of losing out on something. I'm just trying to gather your thoughts as to what challenges do we face here.
No, great questions. See, today and as you rightly said, if we are able to include the digital payment awareness right from the curriculum, colleges or schools, that will be really helpful. So we have worked with many state governments. In fact, the CBSE Delhi board has been very kind enough to include the digital payments chapter inside the 6th standard curriculum. Right. So those kind of efforts we have been trying to work with the other states and the boards as well. Obviously, not yet moved to the level required. But obviously, I think the education awareness is a primary responsibility. And I would also appeal to the audience, as Dr. Bankar Roy said, let's use UPI, RuPay cards, the Bharat bill payments. These are the products of India by Indians, right? Let's use them with pride. Let's teach the other citizens about the digital payments, and obviously when we speak about the digital payments, also make them aware that not to share the password, OTPs and those kind of things to the fraudsters. While a lot of work has been done on awareness, a lot more needs to be done. Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Any other question? Yep.
I'm Abhishek. I'm from L&T. I'm from Chandigarh. I represent the Chandigarh Management Association. So, hearing about the digital transfers and money here, sir, I think it always comes with a pinch of salt. Security. People, older school will have more problem getting into that. Younger school may still have with a pinch of salt. They know it's going to happen, but then they are prepared for it to some extent. In my early career, I was with the bank. I knew ATMs also, they used to buffer from some amount of transaction thefts which has happened. So all I'm saying is that now with PayPal and a little more comfort around, how and where do we look at this dilemma or this challenge which people have, or at the back of their mind something's going to go wrong. So can this be curtailed completely? Is there some nation, some way where it has actually gone completely and it has minimized to an extent?
See, when you look at the digital payments, the many countries in the world which has moved to the digital payments almost like completely, but obviously those are the smaller examples in Europe, and obviously the literacy levels have been very, very high in those countries. For a country like India, it's going to be very complex, and that's where we are looking at from a cashless to a less cash society. And I think we need to be patient as well. I think we should allow the citizens to understand about it and then gradually get onto the digital payments. So I don't think this is by mandate. This is not possible by mandate or those kind of things. I think this has to be by choice. And I think we have been actually very surprised by the capability or the digital adoption on digital payments. While COVID has been helpful, that created one situation that, using digital payment was useful and helpful in that situation in the secure way. But I think the adoption of technology in general by our citizens has been incredible. Incredible.
Last question.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Wonderful ideas expressed. My question is to Bankar Roy, sir. I have been your junior from the same university, and one of the colleges I attended was Delhi School of Social Work. So my pointed question to you is, I still find that with so many social work schools around, they have not been able to spread the message of the rights orientation, they are still into charity mode, and these schools of social work aren't doing much about it. So what is your comment on that? How do we involve people into realizing that sustainability is the thing, and you cannot do with a charity approach, you cannot achieve great results? Your comments on that, sir. Thank you.
I think the schools of social work have to change their mindset a bit. The mindset is back in the Stone Age, it's Victorian. You will have to be able to change the way the professors think, the way the students think, and what the students expect. I've seen people from Delhi School of Social Work and Tata Institute of Social Sciences coming, all looking for quick results, all looking for impact immediate. And I said, look, you know, you are coming from a lifestyle of 100 miles per hour. All of a sudden you come to a village which is 0 miles per hour, nothing works, nothing moves. And then you say, what am I doing here, wasting my time? That's not true. There has to be an adjustment to the way you work with people. First of all, when you go to a village in a rural area, have you got a sense of humor? If you don't have a sense of humor, you can't laugh at yourself, don't go to a village. Period. So these are small little tips that you have to at least understand when you come into a village. So I think Delhi Schools of Social Work, Tata Institute of Social Science must have a major program of getting your students into villages, into civil society organizations, and expose them. And that's not happening enough. I don't know why. I think it should be institutionalized. So my last appeal is that if there is any village next to your company or your industry which is non-electrified, and you want a grandmother to be trained, send them to Telonia.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you once again. It was really enjoyable for me to moderate this session. I really loved interacting with both the gentlemen here, Mr. Roy, as well as with Mr. Asbe. Both are doing wonderful work, brilliant work, which gives us more hope for this country. In terms of inclusiveness, I think all the three individuals that we talked to this afternoon or this morning, in their own way have been doing some mind-blowing work. And that's what gives us hope for the future. When we talk about India going to becoming a superpower, I think it's individuals like this who motivate others to contribute to the nation's growth progress. So once again, on behalf of AIMA, I would like to thank both Mr. Bankar Roy as well as Mr. Dilip Asbe for coming all the way here and talking to us, sharing their ideas. And again, on behalf of AIMA and from behalf of the audience, a big congratulations to both of you for being recipients of this year's Public Service Excellence Award. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such an intriguing and entertaining session. May I now request Mr. Dempu to present a memento to our speakers, Mr. Asbe and Mr. Roy. Come to the front, please, to the award, the memento presentation. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. With this, we have come to the end of the program. I wish to thank you all as well for joining us today to celebrate AIMA's 67th Foundation Day and the 17th National Management Day. An opportunity to thank our sponsors also who have helped us support this. Our sincere thanks to our sponsors Dempo Group and Serum Institute of India, co-sponsors Ambuja Neotia Group, Indian Oil Limited, Kirloskar Brothers Limited, Triveni Turbines and Vodafone Idea Limited, associate sponsors Cavan Care Private Limited and JK Paper Limited, corporate sponsors Godrej Industries Limited, Hindustan University, Management Development Institute, Nico Cables, NTPC Limited and Vikram Solar, and of course our knowledge partner Grant Thornton Bharat. We thank you all for your support, and now please do join us for lunch till we see you again next time.